Recording.
Okay, so I hope everyone had a restful weekend and kind of took advantage of this in-between time that Corona business has given us to connect with ourselves and kind of regroup and organize, as we say, an opportunity kind of time out. And today we have another session that we want to hopefully assist you in making your professional stay here as caregivers a better one in our orientation program. And as I've said before, we're here to help you, and hopefully this will be a tool that you'll find helpful. So I'm going to share a screen of the presentation that has been prepared. Where is the screen? I did download it. Oh, okay, just a minute, please. Okay, sorry it took an extra minute. Can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, thank you. So the subject for today is building and developing a relationship with our patient. And I think we spoke on Friday about how important it is to have a relationship, a trust relationship. And today we're going to talk about building a relationship with our client, what's involved, and what we should be minded of, especially when you're new in a different country, different language, different culture. And so first thing we want to talk about is creating good communication. Next, we're going to talk about coordination of expectations, then building trust, creating the caregiving alliance, and taking into account social and cultural components. So before we talk about those things, we want to talk about good communication. And we tend to see different types of communication. I'd like to specify 4 different types that you'll probably encounter at some point. So every person has a unique communication style, a way in which they interact, exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles that we'll talk about: passive, aggressive, passive-aggressive, and assertive. It's important to understand each communication style and why individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication style has been found to be the most effective because it incorporates the best aspects of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each one, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. So we'll begin by talking about the passive communicators. Often they display a lack of eye contact, poor body composure, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states, people never consider my feelings. And passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow orders and go with the flow. But, big but here, when you're a passive communicator, you don't express your feelings and thoughts. And so maybe it's considered polite or or respectful to be a passive communicator in some communities and some cultures. But the truth is that if you're a passive communicator, then your feelings and thoughts are not directed, are not communicated, and very easy to take advantage of people that are passive communicators, and of course to misunderstand them, and also to misunderstand their behavior as compliance with situations that maybe they're not really, they're not interested in. So if you don't respond in in any way, it's very easy to misunderstand your passive, type of communication. And the same for our patients. If they're passive, very difficult to understand and to know what it is they need, what it is they want, what it is they feel, and how to best approach them and interact with them, and of course, care for them. So being a passive communicator is a very challenging and difficult situation to be in, whether it's part of your own type of communication or someone that you are taking care of. The aggressive communicator or communication style is emphasized by speaking in a loud and demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, dominating or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, threatening, or attacking them, among other traits. So I think this is also not a very good way to communicate. I think we all feel that aggressive people are offensive, and this type of communication usually is difficult to deal with. If we have a client or a patient or someone in his family who communicates in this way, then it's very challenging for us. And also, I think we may need help in trying to understand what is behind it and how we can somehow influence a change in that kind of a behavior. Passive-aggressive communicators, passive-aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within he or she may feel powerless or stuck or build up the resentment that leads to seething or acting out in subtle and indirect or secret ways. Most passive-aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, and even deny that there is a problem. So this kind of communication is very confusing because you're sending double messages, you or your client or someone else that you're, trying to communicate. And double messages are always very difficult to understand, okay? If there's no correlation between the way you behave and you think, or what you say and what you feel, and the message that you're, trying to bring across with facial expressions or body expressions that are not, that are not in correlation with anything else. So obviously this is a very difficult way to communicate, and also, again, difficult to understand what a person is really about. So the most positive way of communication is to be assertive. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, feelings, while also considering the needs of others. One of the keys to assertive communication is using the I statement, such as, I feel frustrated when you are late for a meeting, or I don't like having to explain this over and over. It indicates ownership of feeling and behaviors without blame of the other person. This is very important to understand that, when you present yourself in a in a direct way, in an honest and open way with what you think and what you feel without blaming, if there's a situation of conflict, of misunderstanding, very easy to deal with it. But if a person isn't direct, if they're passive aggressive or passive or any of those, then it's always very difficult to resolve any kind of conflict or situations of misunderstanding. So if you want to summarize, we'll say that the passive communicator is emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. The passive-aggressive communicator is emotionally dishonest and indirect, self-denying at first and self-enhancing at the expense of others later. The aggressive communicator is inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. And the assertive, the green one, the one that we try to, accomplish in our own personality and type of communication that we adapt in ourselves, is to be appropriately honest, direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, empathetic to the emotions of all involved. Self-confident is a key word here. And I think that it's only obvious that in the beginning, in a strange country, in a strange home, in a strange culture, strange language situation, self-confidence is not, the utmost thing that's going to be apparent at the beginning, but eventually, hopefully it will, once you become more comfortable in the situation. But again, to be confident is only part of it. To be empathetic and to the emotions of others and to be direct and honest is, I think, very, very important in the beginning as well. So tools for effective communication. Understanding how others communicate can be key to getting your message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Take ownership. Again, use the I statement. Maintain eye contact if you feel comfortable with it, but we recommend it. Voice your needs and desires confidently, and don't forget to smile. Everybody smile. Serious stuff that I'm talking about, but basically, when you have a smile, I think it's the first and most important part of any communication. We say that, smile is the window to a person's heart, and and so once you do anything and everything with a smile, you're already 50% there in communicating whatever it is that you want to. So how to deal with aggressive behavior or language? This is always a difficult part. And we have a YouTube video here that you can watch at your own time, which may give you some tips on how to deal with aggressive people. Yeah, it's always difficult to deal with aggressive behavior. Okay. And of course, there's the nonverbal communication. I think we can all understand how important that is, especially being in a different culture, different country, different language, different surroundings that you're used to. So the nonverbal communication has an enormous part in the way that you're going to be communicating with your client and his family. Along with the 4 communication styles, there is also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words from the spoken, written, or sign language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language, A clasp of hand indicates closure, tone of voice, physical gestures, standing, or a touch. So I think we all understand that, our body talks more than, some of the words that are coming out of our mouth, obviously. And I think we all know that if we've ever experienced any kind of training of pets or whatever, they obviously don't exactly understand English, Russian, Japanese, Chinese, and pets, animals. They hear the pitch of our voice, the tone of our voice. They feel if we're angry, if we're happy, if we're it's all communicated through our facial expression and through the pitch and tone of our voice and the rhythm and so on. And so all of those things, are part of the way that we communicate with our clients and with people around us in general. And I think that the more minded we are of how we present ourselves or how people perceive us in general, I think that's very important. And also to be able to read your client in terms of his body gestures, in spite of the fact that he may be disabled, obviously, in some ways or in many ways. And so very important to understand that learning his body language is just as important. And if we talked about dealing with aggressive behavior and so on, I think that it's also very important to understand that there are so many ways that we can influence a person's mood and type of communication without, sometimes with a gentle touch, with a gentle voice, and sometimes by introducing smells or sounds that make a person relax. All of those are changing the conversation, changing the subject. All of those things, are ways that we communicate. And most of them are really not involving words, nonverbal, right? Very important, especially since, maybe English is not your first language, and it won't be probably your client's first language. So be attuned to the other types of communication, highly recommended. So tools for effective communication, we can go on and talk about active listening. Find out what is your patient's opinions, thoughts, and emotions, and not to make assumptions and not to make judgments, okay? So I spoke before about how we want to make a conversation. Most likely, you will have to be the initiator of a conversation. Ask questions about family, about background, about career, about where they were born, what's important to them, who are the people that, make them happy, who or what have they lost in their life. All of those things, allow you to communicate in a more understanding, and to be an active listener is to really listen, okay? And reflection, in order to make you sure you understood what your patient or client means, try to reflect by saying that you understand that he said so and so, ask questions. I also recommend repeating the words that they used in order to say something, and that gives a person feeling of affirmation that he has been heard. Empathy, try to empathize to your patient, even if you don't agree with them. And of course, the I message. When you talk about your opinion and thoughts, use the I message. And again, you must understand that many of your clients perhaps have not had someone out of a different faith or of a different culture and different language in their home. Perhaps, you look different, you act different, you smell different, and you're young and you're healthy, and perhaps that is also a new situation. They haven't had that in their home for a long time. So all of those energy things are important when you're trying to build good communication, not to threaten, and obviously not to be in a person's space if they feel uncomfortable with it, right? So part of the thing is to understand where your place is and where they, where they draw the boundaries of where you are and where they are in terms of also um, physical space and emotional space. So tools for effective communication, we can talk about patience. Be very patient with your client or patient and his family. This situation is new to them. And it obviously to them as well, and it takes time to get to know each other. I want to stress that even though they may be waiting patiently to have you come and live with them, and the whole family is anxious to have your help, and and they have a whole set of expectations of what your job will be and how it will be after you arrive. Some of it may be, viable and some not. But the whole situation is new to them. They are just as stressed as you are. They are just as anxious as you are with this new situation. And you must be minded that you must be patient with them and with yourself. Okay? Tolerance, even if you don't agree with your patient, try to respect his opinion. Okay? It's okay to disagree and to make conversation about it, but try to be tolerant. And nonverbal communication, again, when talking to a patient, maintain eye contact. Try to speak at eye level, not above him. Relaxed speech, calm tone of speech. Okay. Eye level. I want to emphasize that it's very important to be at eye level with the person that you're speaking to. Okay. I'm assuming that client and patient are going to be either sitting or laying down. If they're standing, okay. But I'm assuming that most conversation will be sitting down. So be absolutely at his eye level, okay? Don't stand behind him. Don't stand on top of them when you're talking to them, when you're trying to explain something or ask something. Always try to be at eye level. Take a chair, sit down, look at them, and so on. When you're talking about eye level, I think it's also, in a figurative message, in a figurative way, perhaps not to be bossy, not to, take advantage of the fact that you're stronger and more able. Allow them to lead the way, to make the choices, to direct you on what needs to be done. Yes, not to be above them and definitely not to be below them. Okay, very important. So I invite you, as we've done on Friday and at every situation, to share and to get to know each other and to learn from each other's experiences. Some of you have had, experiences in working abroad, and some of you haven't, and this is a good time to share. What is your communication style? What, in your opinion, is the best communication style in general? And, what can you do if a patient has a communication style that's difficult to handle? And which concerns do you have about your patients? Or any other questions about any other subject that we spoke about in terms of communication, learning Hebrew? Anyone like to share a thought, a question, an experience that might benefit us all? You're very welcome. I'll just say a few more things about Israelis and communication. Perhaps I've already said it, but generally Israelis are very direct. I would even say that they're not too polite. Very often they forget to say thank you and please, and they're very pushy in general. They don't know how to stand in line, and they would probably be more direct in expressing, what they think, not necessarily what they feel. Okay, they would probably have no issues, either in the family that you're with, or I'm generalizing, but I'm just saying that, our culture is I would say, a lot more crude than other cultures that you may have encountered in the past. And you don't necessarily have to be that way or adopt it as your own. But you shouldn't take it personally and be offended, because it's just the way things are in general. Would anyone like to comment or ask a question about encountering, situations in different cultures that you worked before?
May I add something about the Israelis?
Please do, Yaakov.
Well, just to emphasize that there are about maybe tens of groups of Israelis. When we say Israelis, we're Israelis from Europe, Israelis from America, Israelis from Morocco, Israelis from, and each group can behave completely different from the other. But following what Sarah said about generalizing Israelis, I would say that there are a lot of people, nice people, helping people, welcoming people, and you will meet the different types. I'm sure when someone is in the peripheria, someone is in the central city. It's a range of behaviors, and you will meet them. But I must agree that we're not the most polite people, but also generalization. But we can be very polite in some ways. And but I'm saying again, I think we're nice people, and we're warm people.
I'm a very nice person. I agree.
So you will meet with those two.
Does anyone have questions about anything at all dealing with Shabbat or religion or politics or safety? You're welcome to ask anything that comes to mind.
Cindy?
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. Is there anything that you like to? No.
None. Does anyone of you have the experience of working abroad?
Yes, about half of the group has worked abroad. We had a short
it would be nice to
introduction
hear about the
session.
communication styles that are presented here, a few types of communication styles. So it would be interesting to hear what you, and we just commented on Israeli communication style, but what you learned about communication styles of people that you assisted while you were abroad. Can you share with us, please? The specific half of the group. Would be happy to learn from you all together. It's not only for me, Sarah, and others, also for you guys, just to share with each other.
And for Yaakov.
So people are shy. We can take a 5-minute break, and I hope someone will be brave in 5 minutes and want to share something before we continue to our next subject. Okay.
All right.
So we'll take a
We'll take
5-minute break. So what do you think, people? Would anyone like to share something about communication, an experience perhaps that they've had abroad? Different people from different countries, how they express themselves, or an encounter you had?
Me, ma'am.
Please do.
Me.
Janice. Hi, Janice.
Me. Yes, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. I'm Janice Orsini. I have an encounter about employer to communicate my employer in Taiwan before, and then this is my problem. if I have a problem of my patient, I always talk their family. And I don't and if don't understand me, I download Google Apps translator and I write down all my complaints about my patient. Then then the family talk his father if I have a problem. That's my communicate.
Oh,
Thank you, ma'am.
okay. Thank you. So you had an experience where your communication with your client was difficult, and you had to use the assistance of someone in the family. Okay, right. That's very
Ma'am.
important when you yes, to learn who the people in the family that you can that you can communicate with more easily, and they can assist you perhaps in
Yes.
translating, but not just in translating, in mediating situations of misunderstanding or something else. Very important to use to find out who the people in the family are that are involved and that, can assist. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share a situation that they dealt with?
Eileen,
Hi.
can see that Eileen, she turned her mic, maybe by mistake.
Hi, ma'am. I may not been through to other country or abroad working. This is my experience about my family, my personal family, my lola or my grandmother. Dealing with older person is very it's not so easy. They get easily hurt, their feelings. You have to understand uh, every time, every time she wants something or she want to talk to you. So mostly they want someone to talk to them, to feel that they are loved, they are being loved, and your attention is always with them. So that is my way of communicating with my grandmother, with my family, with my personal
Okay.
grandmother.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Eileen. Yes, when you have someone like a grandmother that you're caring for and you love her, that makes it on the one hand easier. When you're caring for a stranger, disabled person, it may take time till you really feel love. But you have to be honest about it. And if you're a caring person and you're gentle and you're attuned to listening, and giving it your full attention, then eventually, that feeling will be conveyed in an honest, open way. But I'll just say that being, TLC, tender loving care, is always the best, spice that you put on any kind of work that you do, especially in the care profession. But it takes time to really care about our client, and that's after we know them better. And so you must be patient with yourself. In the past, I've heard caregivers, say that they want to be like part of the family. And perhaps because this is the experience that you've had, you would expect to be part of the family if you're in such an intimate, caring situation. But you must not be offended if that is not the way that your client necessarily wants to put you in that situation. Perhaps they don't feel that they need you to be part of their family. They want you to give professional care for what their needs are. So you must be, it's like a dance. You kind of have to learn what it is that they expect, what it is they want, and attune your own needs and wants in accordance to that. Don't be offended if they really don't want you to be part of the family. Perhaps they'll ask you to eat at a different time or to sit at a different time. Of course, the kitchen is a very special place in many Israeli homes that, do the kashrut, observe the dietary laws. So, they may not want you in the kitchen at all at the beginning until they know that they can trust you with where to put things and how to use things and where to wash and what to wash and so on. So every family has its own specific, idiosyncrasies and ways of doing things and habits, and it will take you time to learn exactly. And so don't try to change things in the beginning. Do the way they do it. Ask many times. And I think that's the best way to begin interaction of, a good relationship is by wanting to, use your charm, your charmers, people. Use your charm to, to get into a person's positive situation, like I said, by smiling, asking questions, and asking what it is they need and how to please them. Exactly. And also learn who are the people in the family that can assist you with all kinds of situations. Very important, right? It's not just one person usually. Usually there are other people involved in caring, and they will, most likely be there for you to help you. Thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to talk about an experience they've had? Different culture, different kind of a communication issue? Perhaps how they solved it.
Sorry, and how do you really express yourself? Not necessarily in other countries or with elderly. How do you express yourself with others? Express your emotions, your needs.
I want to share my experience. I'm Cindy Rita po. In my experience
Cindy,
abroad
sorry.
in United Arab Emirates.
Cindy, I apologize for cutting you. Can you please turn off your video so we'll be able to hear you better? Please try now. Oh no,
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. My experience abroad was my manager I think she's very demanding. What she wants is what we always follow. We're not allowed to argue with her. She always gets angry and she always asks us to do this, do that. But what I do is, if I want to say something to her, I just waited for her to calm down, or I just waited for her to be alone and I talk to her in private. And that's the time I can tell her what I want to, and sometimes she listens.
Okay, so this is from your experience where? You began to say it in
United Arab Emirates, ma'am.
Okay, okay. And you're caring for a disabled person there?
No, ma'am. Actually, I was not a caregiver. I was a waitress in UAE.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I think that, sometimes people, the way they behave towards, a caregiver or a waitress or someone, if they have a position that's perhaps more, above them in any way, they may act disrespectfully or demanding or, not, not asking any questions, giving orders. Yeah, that you could encounter a situation like that, but thank you for sharing how you handled it. Right, you didn't fly off the handle. You didn't respond, the same minute. You waited for your, the person to calm down, to be in a private situation, and then you spoke your mind. Good for you. Thank you for sharing that. Very important. That's what we're talking about, being direct and honest and open, and using your, the I version. Thank you. Yes, it takes a lot of courage to do that, and I agree. Not to argue, but find an appropriate time and place to do it. Yes, thank you. Anyone else want to share? Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, someone else?
Hello,
Oh, good.
ma'am.
Yes. Hi,
I'm
Catherine.
Catherine. Like Ma'am Anat said, how I'm expressing myself. Not only to say, but I show also, like I said, I love you, Ima, but I do hug and kiss her and to say also I love you. Not only by saying, but to show him, to show my patient that I love him. I kiss, I hug, so that I also express my feelings, to express myself that I love them, to the not only to take care of them, but I love, respect, how to express myself, not only to saying I love you, but I show them to hug, kiss them also,
Oh,
and
thank
action,
you.
not only by saying but action. That's all.
You're very right that our body language is very important. Obviously, I spoke about that a little bit, but hugging and kissing our client is definitely, it's appropriate for you. It may not be appropriate for everyone, but that's fine. And I just want to say a few things about, our expectations of, us as caregivers and our clients' expectations. So the fact that, the cow wants to give milk doesn't mean that the calf wants to suckle on the milk. This is an expression that we use. Sometimes we want to show more than our client or patient really wants to receive. So again, I use it's like a dance. You kind of have to understand what's acceptable to them and what's acceptable to you in terms of using body language, hugging, kissing, touching, all of that. For some people, it's more appropriate. For others, it's less. But I also want to say something about what you said. You said, Ima, I think in many cultures, it's acceptable to call if you're caring for an elder person, call her Ima or Abba, which is the Hebrew form for father and mother. And perhaps it shows respect in some ways. But I just have to tell you that not necessarily here in Israel. You should ask what they would like to be called. And if they like to be called by that way, that's fine. I'll just tell you, I personally want to be called Abba or Ima only by my own children. I don't want anyone else calling me that ever. So what we usually do in Israel is we use our first name. And perhaps I've already said that. Even children in school don't call their teachers madam or miss. They call them by their first name, the principal, everyone. So, even our boss, wherever we are, we usually don't use the term madam or Mr. We just call them by their first name, like, Yaakov and Margareta and Anat and myself. We use our first name. So just ask how they like to be called. And I will say one more thing in this relationship, that sometimes when people are disabled and they're introverted and they're hard to communicate with because of their disabilities and so on, we tend to think of them as children. And in some ways it's correct, and in others it's very incorrect, because an elder person has been where we are, right? They've been at our age, but we haven't been at their age. And so we don't want to teach them anything, and we don't want to scold them. We don't want to punish them. We want to honor and respect them, and try to assist them, and to be as, to facilitate whatever abilities they do have to assist them in doing that, to the fullest. And whatever they can't do, obviously we want to do for them. But sometimes we have the idea that they're like children, and they are in the sense that they communicate very emotionally. And I think that what you said before, was it Cindy or Eileen that was talking about her grandma that just wanted a lot of attention and needed to talk and so on. So yes, elder people operate on, perhaps not anymore on an intellectual level, perhaps that has somehow been compromised, or in a physical, motor skills perhaps have been compromised, but emotional feelings and skills, they don't go away. They're always there. And so when we want to communicate to a person on an emotional level, this takes a lot of listening and a lot of, heart to heart, trying to understand. So this is where our professional skills really do come in. Okay, thank you for sharing that, Catherine. I will continue with your approval. 1 minute. Here is another YouTube presentation that you can look at your own time. It gives a few tips on how to communicate with the elderly. And now I want to talk about coordination of expectations. Very important. I started to speak about that before, but I'll say it again now. When starting a new job and starting a new relationship, each side has expectations, hopes, and concerns. Try to have an open conversation with your patient and his family, very important, his family, about their needs and expectations. It is important that you also express your needs and expectations and try to be honest, open, and willing to learn. Very important, okay, to know what you need. If you need a place to be comfortable, not to be cold, not to be hot, to have a place to have your food, to be able to bathe, to have your personal things, all just basic things, perhaps internet, all basic things. You have to voice whatever it is that you need in terms of time as well. Along the way, there may be changes in the patients or your expectations and needs, and it's okay as long as you speak about them, okay? If you maintain good communication, you can always talk again openly about your patient's expectations and your expectations, and try to re-coordinate expectations. And again, in terms of expectations, I just have to say that, perhaps they have expectations that they won't be speaking about. Perhaps they're lonely and they think that now they're not going to be lonely anymore if you're going to live with them. Perhaps they're sad and they think, oh, now I'm going to have someone here, I'm not going to be sad. Perhaps they have, many expectations that you won't be able to fulfill. And perhaps, you'll have abilities that they didn't have any idea how wonderful having you around is going to be. So, the best advice that I can say is when we want to be professional, we want to be minded of what our clients' needs are. And I want to say that, with Corona, people have become more introverted, more isolated, more suspicious of, things that are strange and different to them. And I think that by having you as a partner in negotiating with all of their needs and trying to, make their life better, you can also, do that by perhaps asking if the family has some kind of maybe a WhatsApp or a Viber group that you could probably join and give them a regular report. We had this kind of a day, we had this kind of a week, these issues came up, we were happy here, we were sad there. Take the initiative to make the contact, the appropriate contact with the family as well, or, maybe just through a telephone. Also, communication, if you are a facilitator for them to communicate better with their children, with their grandchildren, with friends, you'll be so much more appreciated, obviously, because this is, it's not in the handbook of caregiving, but we want to give care, not just, to the physical needs of a person, bathing, washing, feeding, clothing, and their home cleaning and cooking, but also their, to their emotional and psychological needs as much as we can, right? And today we're all using the social media as an interaction, is in interacting, and perhaps they're not able to do that, they're not savvy on how to use the internet. So try to help them with it, right? Contact grandchildren on Facebook, or friends on WhatsApp, or go into, lectures or music or whatever it is that may be has been part of their world in the past, and they've kind of not been active in that way. And so by helping them emotionally, I know that, body and mind are one, and that could be something that maybe wouldn't be talked about, but definitely you can initiate. So the next thing we want to do is talk about building trust. Trust is the basis for any relationship, and especially the relationship with our patient. So what is consisting of trust? Reliability, sincerity, integrity, consistency, commitment, and competence. I think that we all can talk about these things for many days, but briefly, what is trust? Trust is one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on the confidence that he has the goodwill, trustworthy, competent, and and honest and openness. So basically, we will trust someone if and we are able to be vulnerable. Obviously, our clients are vulnerable. They're exposing their most intimate part of their life, their home, their body, their medical situation, everything about them, and they need to have your trust in order to do that. And I think that if you want someone to trust you, you must trust them as well, and also present yourself in some way, and your vulnerabilities, or your in whatever way you feel comfortable in the beginning, and perhaps more so as time goes by. It's a shared belief that you can trust someone to achieve a common goal, and obviously you do have a common goal with your patient, to make his life better, right? So this is your common goal, and trust is the basis for anything. I think that that's very obvious. We all know that. The base of trust, there are many elements. Respect for others. That's obvious, right? We can't trust someone if we can't respect them. Sincerity, okay. What you say is what you mean, and what you mean is what you say, right? We don't want to say things that are not correct. Integrity, yeah, very important to have integrity is to be honest. Openness, yes, we want to be open and direct about what we feel, what we think, how we experience things. To be reliable, very important, okay? They have to rely on you if you say you're going to do something or be somewhere. I think it's also important that if you make mistakes, and you will make mistakes, that you come forward and you say, I'm sorry, this and this happened, not intentional, but you must know that these are the results, and so it's easier to deal with. We don't want to be sneaky and lie about things. People make mistakes. If you work, you make mistakes. If you don't work, you don't make mistakes. Consistency. Consistency is very important, especially to disabled and elderly people. People like their routine. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel secure. It makes them feel, that they're in control. So if someone has a routine and they present the way things are done, what they expect, first this, then that, even if you think that it's not the best way to do things, more efficient to do it another way, faster to do it another way, do it the way they ask you to, okay? Makes a person relaxed and comfortable and confident. Consistency is very important. Respect that. Commitment, okay? This is a big commitment. It's, it's like being sort of like a marriage where you don't know who your partner is, and it takes time to learn them, and you have a commitment to live together, to take care of him, to be there for them. And in a way, he has made the same commitment for you, right? So you want to protect them and their body, and obviously their property is also. Person is opening up his home, and the family is, putting in your hands a very loving person, and they trust you to take care of. They want to trust you with all of that, right? Most important person. So it takes time, but all of those things are important. More ingredients for trust: willingness to be vulnerable, a sense of security that the trust recipient will meet our expectations, goodwill, a belief that the recipient of trust will protect the well-being of the trust giver, reliability, a connection between predictability and goodwill, honesty, the fit between statement and action, right? You have to be honest. What you say is what you mean, what you do. Openness and transparency, and reciprocity, treating the others as we would like to be treated. I think this is the basis for, do unto others as you would do unto you would want them to do unto you. This is like, the ABC of any kind of relationship, no matter what culture you come from. I think we all understand that. And how to build a trusting relationship with the patient. Okay. Remember that your patient opens his most private space for you, his home. And like you, he has concerns, expectations, hopes from this relationship. Give trust and trust yourself. Trust the patient and trust the process of getting to know each other. If you trust the others, they will trust you. Always tell the truth. If something bothers you, don't keep it inside and try to talk about it. I have to tell you that, you may be put to the test. Sometimes, when you have strangers coming into your home and you're anxious and you are, suspicious and you don't have their trust yet, they may put you to a test. I don't know what kind of test. Perhaps you've been tested in the past in your work experiences, either with money, with keys, with questions, with all kinds of things. We all test each other, right? People that we don't know, we want to get close to them, we want to know them. We kind of test them each, depending on the situation and so on. And it's natural. And don't take it personally. It's part of the process. Don't be offended. Okay, so the Caregiving Alliance. Let's talk about that. Creating the Caregiving Alliance. The Caregiving Alliance consists of 3 essential components: agreeing on the caregiving tasks, agreeing on the goals of the care, and developing a personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communication. I think that sums up most of what we spoke about up until now. The Caregiving Alliance is usually determined at the beginning of a relationship between the caregiver and the patient and constitutes the primary infrastructure of the relationship between them. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiving relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. But I just want to say that, many things are not going to be talked about in the original contract that you make in the beginning, okay? And there'll be many issues that will come up during your stay that you'll have to ask and see what you agree upon and what you don't agree upon. Where you eat, what you eat, where you put your things. Some people are, anxious about how much water you use. If they have to heat the water, it costs money for electricity. I don't know, people have issues, and you have to kind of find out what is acceptable to them and what is acceptable to you. And it's a kind of a negotiating situation, but eventually I'm assuming that, everyone wants to be comfortable and feel good and be happy in the situation they're in. So yes, so voice your needs and ask many, 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 many questions, many, many questions. Don't make assumptions. Taking into account social and cultural components. Okay, part of the Caregiving Alliance is taking into consideration social and cultural components. You and your patient come from different culture. You have different languages, lifestyle, customs, preferences, and beliefs. It's okay to express your preference and to keep your customs, but it's better to talk about it with your patient and reach an agreement. Try to take into account the culture, values, customs, traditions of your patient. This includes food preferences, daily routine, and habits. Always ask, okay? They're going to be very different from what your experience if you haven't been in a Middle Eastern country, and even if you have been in a Middle Eastern country. Food is different, spices are different, people eat, lightly in the morning, lightly in the evening, heavy during the middle of the day. Sometimes they take a nap whenever it is that they take a nap. All of those different things, very important to ask. Daily routine is their life, and so we don't want to make them uncomfortable in any way. Discussion, questions. What do you think is the most complex step? Learning the language, learning the family, who's who, who's for you, who's against you. What do you think is the easiest step in forming a trust relationship? Do you have any concerns about any of these issues? Remember, you can always practice and improve the way that you relate. And you're not alone. This is very important. You must understand that in any kind of a conflict or stress situation, you don't need to feel alone. You can always try to find assistance within family members, if not family members, the agency, the social worker there, and of course the call service for CME. All of those options are available to you in any kind of situation. So what do you people think? Anyone like to share thoughts about trust? Being tested, anything?
Hi, ma'am.
Hello.
I think the most complex step you have to learn, or we have to learn, is how to communicate first, and then from then we understand each other. We know how to deal with every situation. From then, I can say how I feel, my concerns, and also asking their asking their wants also, and their need.
Okay, to ask about their needs and wants. And when you say to learn how to communicate, you mean to learn Hebrew? This is the
Yes,
national
ma'am.
language.
I think
Okay.
so. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So have you learned any Hebrew yet?
A little, ma'am.
Oh, good. All right,
Yes,
good for you. In how have you in any online or with friends? How have you done that?
with friends, ma'am. With
With
friends. And
Okay.
with, through reading.
Okay, good for you. So you've
But
taken
it
the
takes
initiative.
time, ma'am.
Yes.
It takes time to
5 words every
learn.
day? What do you think?
I think, yes, ma'am. The easiest and the basic.
5 words, 5 sentences, right? How much is this? Thank you, please. All of those basic things. All right, good for you. Thank you. Yes, learning Hebrew is going to be a challenge and a big step, right? Okay. Anyone else want to comment about any of the things I spoke about? Learning a different language for a work situation. Anyone want to share an experience about that?
Cindy, have you learned a few words in Arabic, maybe?
I think so.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Ah,
so you
that's
know a
good.
little Arabic?
Sway, sway, sway.
Shwaya, shwaya.
Ah,
Yes,
good.
ma'am.
It's like rega rega.
Yeah.
Without the hand movement, right? It's like rega rega,
And
shwaya
also,
shwaya. They also do this, yes?
this ma'am, the same.
The
way.
same,
Yeah,
right?
same.
Yes.
We have a few gestures that are this hand gestures that are the same in many Arabic countries.
Yalla.
Yeah,
Exactly.
good.
Yalla.
All right, you've got the intonation as well. Good.
Very good.
Okay.
And how Hebrew sounds to you so far? Have you heard a little here since you arrived to Israel? It sounds similar?
Me?
Yeah.
Actually, ma'am, it's a little bit hard to pronounce, but our teacher in Hebrew make it easier for us to read our notes.
Okay. The alphabet is different and so many sounds that you're not familiar with the and the and the all of these things that you're not familiar with.
But she make it
Okay.
easier for us to read.
Okay.
It's easier for you to read?
Yes, yes, ma'am. She said that the spelling, the way you pronounce it, and the spelling is different. That's why she make it easier for us to read the notes po.
Okay.
Thanks.
So when you make notes of all of the things that you're asked to do, you'll probably do it in whatever language you feel most comfortable in. You'll have a notebook and you'll write down things, that you're
Yeah.
asked to do, especially routine. Very important to keep a routine and to check, if you're in charge of the household, to check that there's, enough food and enough medication, and eventually you'll know how to fulfill the all of those things that, not the last minute to run around if something is, you're out of this or out of that. Who your contact be, how to handle their money, all of those very important things, you must ask questions and not to be afraid to make mistakes in the beginning. It takes time. In general, I just want to tell you that Israel is a very safe country, to my understanding, and you can walk around anywhere you want during the day or night. But, like everywhere else, you have to use your common sense. You don't want to be somewhere late at night alone in a dark street or an alley, right? If you're going somewhere, make sure that you have the proper transportation, where you're going to pick up a bus or, whatever, or a cab, or someone else is giving you a ride. Find out before that how you're going and how you're coming back. There's good public transportation everywhere except on Friday and Saturday, you know that. Lots of stuff to kind of learn before you go out on your own on the street. So allow the family to assist you and to teach you whatever it is that you need to know, right? Again, ask many, many questions. Okay. Anything else we want to bring up at this point?
anyone have any questions or concerns, something related to today's meeting or in general, or Friday's meeting? All right. Margarita and Jakob, do you like to add anything? All right. Jakob, I see that you want to say something.
Not really.
Not really.
I heard, and I'm fine with the words that I heard in Hebrew. But I can just add that, as long as you will get with it, you will get to know it, and you will get to be familiar with it.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay.
from what I've noticed, and something that I like to mention, we all know how to better express ourselves when things are smooth and nice and calm. It's very important to know how to express yourself when you're in stress and distress. If something is bothering you. And when we spoke about how to communicate ourselves, I wanted to, when I asked, how do you express yourself? I simply wanted to know how you express yourself in those tough situations. And so please take the time and think with yourself. How do you express yourself? And if you express yourself at all, or you build it up till you can't keep it inside any longer. You're welcome to bring it up in our next meeting or at our final meeting. We can discuss it also on the chat group. Just make sure that you know, and if you don't know, learn how to express yourself better in order to build your relationship with your employer, with the family, and make sure that you have the tools to communicate better.
Thank you, Anat. Do you want to say something about our next meeting with everyone, about our guests
Of
and so
course.
on?
All right. So tomorrow morning, we will meet again. Soon I will send you the link for tomorrow morning. We will meet at 10:15. And we will have a wonderful meeting with Sarah. And then at 11 o'clock, a special guest will join us, a veteran caregiver in Israel. She's also from the Philippines. She will join us at 11 o'clock. She will tell about her experience here in Israel. And I like to invite you to think about any questions, concerns, something that you like to ask her. And please do that. She will be here to answer any question. Okay. So we will meet tomorrow at 10:15.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
See you, ma'am.
Tomorrow, Miss Note at 10:15. We meet at 11.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. At 11 o'clock. At
Sorry,
11,
Madam.
and
You
Nympho will
confused me
join us
for a minute.
tomorrow at 11:45. Apologize.
Okay.
Thank you, Margarita.
Thank you,
Confused me.
everyone.
Okay. So we say in Hebrew, lehitraot, which means see you
Lehitraot.
again soon. Lehitraot. See you
Later
tomorrow,
on,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.